Started. Welcome, everybody. It's 5:15, so I'm going to call to order our joint meeting of the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Commissions. All right, let's get started. Which of our vice chairs has taken minutes this time? Okay, Commissioner Norrie, could you take roll call?
Sure. Commissioner Luis.
Present.
Commissioner Liu.
Here.
I am here. Commissioner Huber Levy.
Here.
Commissioner Bocanegra will be here soon.
Not here yet.
Yes. Commissioner Bustos. Commissioner Sophignori. I don't think is here. Commissioner Rasmussen.
Here.
Commissioner Swope.
Here.
Commissioner Uhila. And Commissioner Wilson.
Here.
All right, I think we have a quorum, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. So first order of business is to, I believe, to approve the agenda, which I am going to share on the Zoom screen right now. Give me 1 second.
I move approval of the agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Swope. Is there a second?
I second.
Does anyone have any comments or discussion about the agenda? Okay. Not hearing any objection, the agenda is approved. Next in our order of business is to approve our minutes from our last meeting, which was in January.
Move that we approve the minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Liu.
I second.
Commissioner Norrie, any comments, edits? Were there any changes to the minutes?
Hello?
Well, I think there were some typos that we corrected already prior to the meeting.
No, I have a problem with the minutes as they are. We do not have the wording of the motions. That is the most critical thing to have in minutes, which are a legal document. So I would ask that we defer them and I'll help redo them.
Okay, that seems like a good idea. So if there's no objection, we can table the minutes until next month.
The what of the minutes? What was?
So we're going to table the approval of the minutes to our next meeting.
Why?
And because the wording of the actual motions needs to be in the minutes. Right. Note to you for this meeting. All right, so we'll move on to communications. So at this point in our meeting, we pause for public comment on items that are not on the agenda. So if there are any members of the public that would like to make public comment, you are welcome to do that now. And we are sharing screen. Actually, I'm going to stop that so I can see people a little bit better. If you would like to make public comment, it would be easiest if you could use the reactions button at the bottom and raise your hand. Does anyone have their hand up?
I think Nancy Goodman's hand up.
Okay, I can see it better on my screen. Sorry, I think on the screen that we have in the room, it's a little hard to see. Nancy Goodman, and I'm sorry if you could pronounce your last name for me.
Yes.
That would be helpful, but you can go ahead.
Thank you, Monroe and commissioners. My name is Nancy Goodman. I live in Redwood City. I'm a member of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Redwood City. And just as a person of faith, I'm really concerned about the kids who have been suffering in juvenile hall for decades of sexual abuse that seems to have been ignored by the county. And I know this is according to at least 11 recent lawsuits. It seems like it's not only one of the deputy probation officers who's being accused of multiple incidents of abuse, but also, as we know, Dr. Ayers, who was the psychiatrist for decades for Hillcrest and died in jail after being convicted of abuse of private patients. There's also a new lawsuit accusing him and the county of covering up that abuse, and both of these looking for damages. So I'm just saying this is horrific. It's unacceptable. These kids are our responsibility as community members and as county taxpayers. When we put them in as a ward of the court, we're like their parents, and we can't allow this to happen to them. It's a pattern of abuse. It seems like a pattern possibly of cover up. So I want to thank the commission for looking at this and encourage you to look deep and close and make immediate changes, I think, that are called for to protect the kids. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I see Ms. Garcia, you had your hand up next.
Hi, my name is Angel Garcia, and I'm a regional specialist with the Office of Youth and Community Restoration under California Health and Human Service Agency. I just wanted to announce myself and just say a few words about our office. So our office was created with the passage of SB 823, which closed the Department of Juvenile Justice. All youth prisons will be closed by June 30th, and has moved responsibility of supporting county probation and promoting evidence-based and promising practices to our office, which is now under the Health and Human Service Agency. And so the support of our young people in justice facilities has now moved from a punishment model to a health model. And so I support 33 out of the 58 counties, and your county is one of them. So I just wanted to announce myself, share a little bit about our office, and I'll be putting my information in the chat. And our office website in the case that anybody wants to get in touch with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. Becca Keeler, I see you with your hand up next.
Thank you. Appreciate the moment to speak. I'm here for a couple of reasons. I'm a resident of Redwood City. I'm here to support the work of the JJDPC and ask what we citizens can do in regards to the sexual allegations that broke last week. What can we do to make sure that this doesn't happen to one more youth? And I ask first that you make this decision as though you were talking about your own children being affected, because they just might be. I want to state that there is a shamefully long history, as Nancy Goodban stated, of sexual abuse in this county. Dr. Ayers, Chief Forrester, for starters, the previous chief of probation. This needs to stop now. It needs to stop today. Not one more child. These kids aren't throwaway kids. They're our responsibilities. They've had a tough enough time, and then to have this kind of thing happen, we need to stop this today. JJDPC is supposed to be, I believe, the oversight for probation and the juvenile hall and where the children are held. In the years I've been following, probation has stepped away from the table. Your members have stated that they didn't hear about these allegations from probation, heard about them through other sources. So there isn't any oversight, and that's wrong. Everybody needs oversight. Everybody else has oversight. We need oversight. These allegations are a result of no oversight. So I'm asking again, I spoke at the Board of Supervisors meeting, asked for independent and transparent investigation to begin immediately, asked for your body to have authority that it should have, asked for the children and their families to have a way to make their complaints heard outside of the district attorney and the probation department where they feel safe, and to make the people that have been affected whole. Let us know what we can do as citizens. We do care. We want to support your work. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think I can say for all the commissioners that we certainly share the public's concern for the safety of youth in the juvenile justice system in San Mateo County. And so you will be hearing more from us about this. All right, so we're going to move on to the rest of our agenda. I'm going to share my screen one more time so that everybody can see that. Great. At this point in the beginning of our meetings, we usually pause to hear from our partners in the juvenile justice system and get updates from the private defender's office and from probation. And I see that Ron Reyes is here. So Ron, welcome. I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, everyone. I have a quick update. Past 4 weeks, I assigned 31 cases. Of those 31 cases, five of them involve 707T type of offenses. We filed 4 sealings, that is regular sealings. We also received 45 calls on our Miranda hotline calls, which we fielded. And so those are the updates, the numbers that we have. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Commissioner Uberletti.
Yeah, and thank you so much. Nice to see you here. I just wanted to ask about the Miranda calls.
Yes.
I know what a Miranda statement is, but what do those calls constitute? Are the people asking about their rights, or are they?
Yeah, so in 2018, a law was passed in which a child, at that time, it was 16 years or younger, before they can waive their right to consultation with an attorney, they had to actually speak to an attorney before that waivers happen and speak to the police.
Okay.
And then in 2020, the law changed and increased the age to 17 and younger. So any youth that is arrested prior to them being interviewed by any law enforcement agency, they must talk to an attorney before their Miranda right is waived.
Okay.
So we set up a hotline since 2018, which we staff 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And anytime we receive a call on our hotline, we have the attorney that is assigned, speaks to the youth and speaks to the law enforcement person, collects information, speak to the youth, provide advisement on what the Miranda means, and then speak to that attorney, to the law enforcement person about it, and the determination whether it happens. Then the determination would happen whether the youth can invoke or give a statement.
Are those attorneys that are staffing the hotline?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
They're all juvenile attorneys.
Oh, yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Any other questions from commissioners for Mr. Reyes? Ron, I have a quick question. So the numbers that you reported for this month, how does that compare to recent months? And just ballpark, like, are you seeing about the same number of cases or an increase or decrease?
We are seeing an increase since the pandemic. We saw significant dips in this since the start of the pandemic in the filing. The numbers have been picking up, I would say, in the latter part of last year. However, the numbers that we saw, for example, in December, we had 79 assignments versus the past 4 weeks, they were 31. So there has been increase, but it does fluctuate. But overall, I would say our total numbers have been.
The trend has been up.
The trend has been up. And then if I were to give you one common thread that we have seen that we have not seen in the years past is the increased number of cases involving guns. So that's not so much use of guns, more of possession of guns.
Right.
Okay, thank you. All All right, moving on to the next part of this section of our agenda. We'll hear updates from probation, and I believe, Ms. Stoffer, you're gonna go first?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. So I report out on the stats for the juvenile division, and I'm also going to report out on some of the stats for the institution. I'm currently overseeing the institution and some of juvenile services. Ms. Clark and I share the responsibility of juvenile services, and she also oversees the camp. So, but if you have any questions, just please let us know. For the month of January, we had 193 cases in diversion or intake. We had 125 cases on formal supervision or court-ordered informal supervision. So the difference with those cases are that they've already gone through the court process and they've either been put on informal for 6 months, deferred entry of judgment for a year, or formal probation. That's for a total of 318 cases. We have 5 youth with gang orders currently, so that number has gone down. 0 youth in placement and out-of-home care, which we're always happy to report out on that number. 2 AB-12 youth, those are youth that went through foster care, turned 18, and are now receiving extended foster care services. And so we have 2 youth in AB-12. With 25 youth on EMP, and that's pre-disposition and post-disposition. So that means that some of those youth are pending court and they were released from the facility and placed on EMP. And some youth are on EMP as a disposition. I report out on the top 5 offenses that we saw for the month of January: first-degree robbery, shoplifting, assault with a deadly weapon, battery, and criminal threats. For the new cases that were referred for the month of January to our department, 6 of them were assigned for diversion. 2 of the cases were letter of reprimands. So we talk to the family, assess, give a letter. 2 of them were referred to the petty theft program, and 3 cases. Sorry, that's more than 6. That's 7. 3 were referred to the Victim Impact Awareness Program. We had 7 cases assigned for assessments. That's where a BHRS clinician will meet with the youth and the family along with probation to determine whether or not the youth should be diverted and be placed on a contract. So counseling, community service, those are some of the contracts that we have. And then 36 cases were referred to the DA's office. We have 30 youth in the facility, 27 are male, 3 are female, and we have 3 camp youth. And then the final stats, I'm not able to report out on the youth that we serve based on race or gender. I wasn't able to get those stats for you today, but we'll have them next month. And then lastly, I would like to let you all know that this will be my last meeting. I am retiring from the probation department after 21 years. And so Ms. Clark and probably someone else at some point will be taking my place. So it's been a pleasure to get to be a part of these meetings and share this information with you. So thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Thank you for your service.
And all the best to you. Next stage.
Does anyone have questions for Melanie on the numbers that we heard?
Just I couldn't hear.
She ended with that stunner.
Was it,
though.
yeah, was it 37? We have 37 in the hall and 30.
27 are male.
Okay.
3 are female. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
I have a couple of questions. The Victim Awareness Program, where is that being provided at?
So currently the classes are still being held virtually. Previously, the South County classes were held at San Carlos Library through Star Vista. And then the Youth Service Bureau would hold classes in South San Francisco. But they're still being conducted virtually right now.
And you said there's 3 attending?
We referred 3 for diversion, but we do have other kids that are on probation who have been ordered to complete the program. But just for diversion, new cases for the month of January.
Okay, and could any kid be referred there? Like, could we make this available to all kids coming into the YSC just so that they can begin the rehabilitation as soon as they walk in?
So with victim impact awareness, we really only refer youth that we think where there's a victim associated with the crime. And so if we had a youth who, I mean, we could say vandalism, there's a victim for sure, but it really just depends on each case. And it's a referral that we make or a recommendation that we make when there's a youth that we want to have them really truly connect to what it is the victim might have gone through. And then there's a portion at the very end that includes mediation. So, but yes, do we think it could be helpful to all kids? Sure, yeah, but we don't refer all youth that come through the system.
Thank you. And the other question I had, the 3 camp girls, are they from San Mateo County?
I believe 2 are from Sonoma.
2 are from Sonoma, one is our kid, and we actually have another youth that is from our county that's going there.
Thank you. Thank you, Melanie, and thank you for your service.
Yeah, no problem, thank you.
I also had a question. Sorry. So when you describe the top 5 offenses, I'm wondering if you could just maybe contextualize it by giving us a number, or if there are some privacy issues associated with that.
So what I'm doing is I'm going through all of the cases that we've assigned, and I'm just doing like a rough count of the offenses where we had more of these types of offenses that we received.
Well, I guess my question is whether we could know what more is in the context of the cases that probation receives.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I think maybe that's something that we can talk to Monroe about, because I know he's talked to us about other data requests as well. So we can certainly talk about that.
And I just was going to make one last comment. There are a couple youth in the youth service center right now who, when we do our monthly visits, they're asking for the victim awareness program, and they would be what we would consider our long-term kids. So maybe we could get them hooked up with the online program.
Okay.
We can talk about that more in private. Thank you.
Thank you.
What are the plans to give Jehan a new sidekick?
She will definitely get one. We don't know quite yet.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're not gonna know, it's gonna live.
okay, and you're leaving how imminently?
March 30th.
Okay, thank you.
I did have just a couple of questions about the numbers. The 5 youth on gang orders, are those youth on probation or in detention? Could they be on probation or in detention if they're on gang orders, or is it just youth on probation?
Yeah, so gang orders would only apply to youth who are on formal or 6 months of informal probation, but usually those are going to be our more intensive cases.
Okay.
And I wouldn't be able to tell you right now if any of the 5 are currently in custody. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I can't confirm that.
And then, did you say 7 patients were sent to BHRS? Is that?
7 assessments, yeah, so that's where probation and the BHRS clinician will meet with the family to determine should this youth be diverted and given a contract. And that could be a 90-day contract or a 6-month contract, just depending upon what the needs are, what the concerns are, the youth's likelihood to participate. It's voluntary, so they don't have to do a contract if they don't want to. Yeah. And then the other cases that were referred to the DA's office.
Yeah. And there are 3 youth at Camp Kemp. Are there any youth in the Girls Empowerment Program that are there any?
Right now we
in
have
GP?
no GP, no.
Okay.
Got a couple more follow-up questions on that. Do you have anything on paper that would provide us a criteria for the validation of a gang order? Like, what determines that the youth is a gang member? And what is the cultural makeup of the 5 youth that have gang orders?
So, and Ron, I hope it's okay if I put you on the spot a little bit, maybe you can help me answer this. It's my understanding that the crime that's committed has to be committed with the intention of furthering the gang mentality, or that the crime is going to promote gang involvement. So it's actually difficult to get gang orders for a youth, because where we used to be able to recommend it if the youth was wearing red all the time or hanging out with their gang associate friends, now we really have to articulate that this youth is considered a threat to the community because of the crime that they've committed. Are you able to add a little bit to that?
Yeah, I mean, there typically there is a hearing at the time of disposition when these conditions are imposed, and there has to be a finding by the court that those conditions are reasonably related to the adjudication. And then that's going to further community safety, if you will. And then so usually there is a hearing and there's a finding by the court of these conditions have been imposed.
Is there something on paper that the commission could receive that allows us to see what the criteria is during these hearings that is being weighed, whether to determine whether the youngster is a gang member or not? Because the color red or the color blue is just not enough to determine gang membership.
Well, I don't believe I think those days are way gone. I mean, that usually for those conditions to be imposed, my assumption is there have been significant discussion and some kind of hearing before a judge. Typically, those conditions are recommended by probation, part of the disposition report, which then presented to the court and to the attorney who presented the youth and the DA, and then they are discussed and litigated at the disposition hearing. So to answer your question, if I understand it regarding paper, usually those conditions have to be listed in the disposition report. And then usually there is an objection or whatever the case may be at that disposition hearing. And then the court has to make the ultimate decision, what of these conditions will be imposed and which would be stricken.
And who would be the gang expert that would be advising the court or the probation department on why the youth should have a gang order? And does this come after the youth is convicted, or is this a premature validation?
So those for probation to impose probation condition, it usually happens after, well, not usually, it happens after there has been adjudication and then it's at the disposition. So when the youth is being placed on probation. As far as whether there's an expert, I'm not sure if on the probation side, what happens. I can tell you that on our side, there is a law review and this, and studying of whether these conditions are applicable or not. And then there is a determination whether, they should be applied or not. And if there is a disagreement, even if the court does order them, then we appeal those orders.
Okay. And so is there someone that the private defender's office uses to assist in navigating these hearings that are looking to find these youth and
we have
these gang orders on them?
We have we have experts that we work with.
Yes.
Definitely.
Okay. Is there an organization or just contractors of the court?
So there's different people who either been system involved before or they have been gang members before and they have been validated, and since they have been now serve as experts to us that we utilize. There's also Loyola Law School. They have, since I think a couple of years now, they have a program of which previously validated gang members, they go through their programs and graduate, and then they have been serving as experts. So there's a wider range of experts that we can tap into and utilize to consult with on cases like that.
Would we be able, the commission, to receive a list of those system involved individuals that are being used to determine?
That's a great question.
these gang validations?
I don't think I can provide that. One, it's confidentiality, and two, I'm not sure these kids are actually presented by our office. So when I'm answering your question, I'm just telling you what the state of the law is. So I don't know if even these kids are represented by anybody from my office. So they
Right.
could have private counsel. I don't know what the circumstances are. So
But if they are presented by your office, could we receive the list of those system involved people? Because if they're testifying,
I can't, well, the short answer is, it depends on what the charges are. These are, there's 827 in place, and these are confidential documents. Disclosing information like that is a misdemeanor, so it's not, I cannot just easily provide information about a youth in the justice system.
and then the question was the cultural makeup of the 5 youth that had the gang orders?
I wouldn't be able to answer that right now.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you so much, Ron. Thank you, Ron.
Sure.
Thank you, Ron. That's helpful because we have the ongoing gang project. So to know who's involved and how it works that's a critical piece. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I think the next update is coming from Superintendent Clark.
Yeah, so just, as most of you know, we just had our JJCC meeting, excuse me. And just letting you guys all know where we're moving forward. A lot of the recommendations have been things that we came up with, even suggestions that you guys have had. And so that we're moving forward. I think the biggest thing is trying to figure out like the pots of money. As you know, what we got wasn't a lot, but we are working with it and trying to figure out again what pots of money that we are gonna use. But just looking more towards having our living quarters look more home-like, creative, artistic, and therapeutic, focusing on vocational opportunities. As far as expanding our multi-sensory rooms, so having individual themed rooms on that unit, looking at storage for the rooms. We've already started extending our mural projects, so we have a few that are working on the hallway. We're currently looking at who we're gonna pretty much have a contract with for tablets. All the youth in custody are able to have tablets. Looking at our outdoor space, having more recreation, furniture, lawn games. I think the biggest thing in working with, thank you, Melissa, your referrals for like vocation. But that's kind of one of the things at the top of our list, culinary art. We've been having a hard time trying to find somebody to fill that, but hopefully soon. So if you guys have any recommendations for that. And then looking at just more just art therapy, and that's pretty much it. There's any questions about that?
So I have a question. So I was on the BSCC website and I noticed that San Mateo is not listed as having applied for the youth program and facilities grant. And I don't know if you're aware of that, but I was surprised to not see us there. What I was trying to do is see what was in the grant.
Which one is it? I think we pretty much have applied for.
I would imagine, but I saw all the other counties, youth program and facilities grant. And it looks like there's application part A and B, and everybody except for 2 counties have applied for
No,
A.
we have, so I'm not sure why we're not on there.
Okay.
That was, I believe, last year we had to, because we had a whole, and I think it was attached because when we had our JJCC meetings initially, all of our counterparts, kind of like an MDT type form, we all met and everybody gave their input as to what services we were going to provide. So I will.
Okay, great.
Thank you. And that's BSCC. Okay.
I just had a couple questions. The one about the dishwasher, it's my understanding that the one that was in there came from the old facility and it was brought over when the new facility was built. Is that true?
I don't think so. It just kind of gave out and stopped working, so we had it fixed.
Okay.
Yeah, from my understanding, when we moved in, and this is me coming from the old to the new, everything was brand new, state of the art. So
Okay.
I would be very, very shocked if it came from the old building.
Yeah, I was surprised when I heard that
Yeah.
too. So, but I see here that there's a $10,000 the 10,000 is a lot for a dishwasher, and I would think that would come out of a general budget since it's a dishwasher for the facility and not so much as a softening or related to this. So I would hope that something like a dishwasher would be like, come out of a different fund, but
I'm not sure what fund. I do know that when we were kind of partnering with the sheriffs to do the culinary arts programs, or even any type of certified programs, is our intention is for every youth that's involved to get a food handler certification. And so the facility, the kitchen has to be up to par. And so the dishwasher was a part of that. And so part of our culinary arts, part of the vocations, is one of the things that we've had, and then it's kind of fell away, just not, that's neither here nor there, just, trying to get somebody to come back in and facilitate that. And so a dishwasher and proper sanitizing of all the dishes and equipment is part of it. So
okay, I get it.
yeah.
The interest, what I'm hearing from the kids, the interest that they have is barbering and like forklift simulation, and coding and stuff to do with that. Like that's, I don't hear anyone ever say, Miss Johanna, I'd like to cook. I'd like to do a culinary
Yeah, so I was
program."
wondering, why culinary?
Well, because we've had it and it was really successful.
Okay.
And so I think it's two different things going on. I think we focus on one, our SOAR program, but then also our kids that are there, that part of reentry, because they can actually, and looking into barbering and other things, but we're looking into whoever's there, that when they can leave, they can take some type of skill with them that carries, on once they leave. So I think just because we've had culinary arts before and it was, successful and a lot of the kids are interested, is why one of the programs that we want to bring back. Not to say that we're not looking into, we actually, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, consulted with Paxton Patterson, which they do a lot of the construction, solar, and different things. Not coding, you said something else. I'm sorry.
Forklift.
Not, maybe it wasn't forklift, but I think electrician and plumbing.
Wonderful.
That they can actually use and take, and then partnering with them again. We did partner with them at Glenwood, and looking to see where they can make connections with the unions.
Perfect.
So once they go through the training and getting certified, then, actually us partnering and have, something with the union. So once they leave, they can hopefully get a job, or at least get, what is an apprenticeship.
Yes, exactly. If you need assistance with that, please let me know. My family's in local 38. My last question is about the tablets. There's an issue right now at the county jail regarding the tablets because they have a no mail policy, like no physical mail. It's just everything is done through these tablets. And it's my understanding that when you use the tablets, I don't know if the intention is to use for visiting or mail or messages, but that the company actually saves the data of whoever the person is communicating with. So I just, that we don't choose a company that will preserve the data of whomever our kids are talking to.
No, so we have already, I think so far, probably at least 4 or 5, that we've been involved in and kind of have vetted. We're gonna, of course, I think, open it up and have a process coming in. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we're looking at and so far, is that we've reached out to other neighboring counties for juvenile facilities, because there is a huge difference in the focus in the ones that are being offered at the county jail. And what they're kind of selling isn't really what we're interested in. So
There you go.
it is more so not only just the communication part, but also education, also the ability for them to be able to meet with a therapist, get whether it's TED Talks or even other certifications that some of the more adult-centered tablets don't offer as much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for working so hard on that, because that's going to be that's going to make a huge difference.
Yes.
So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I have a question. I always got a question for Ms. Clark. The storage bins, we're spending $16,000 on 180 bins. Has there been any discussion of just fixing lockers, as the Title 15 says that these cages, I'll use the word cages because I know a lot of people don't like the word. So these cages, has there been a discussion to put permanent lockers in there?
So I think the only issue that we're having is because it is facility where they're not able to harm themselves. So we're really looking, I mean, we can't just say, okay, we're gonna put something wood in there, put something metal, because then now it could create a safety and security issue, not for necessarily for others, but then also themselves. So that's where the challenge has been, is trying to find something that fits the purpose, but then it's also safe.
So, you know, I've been to the maximum security prison that California has to offer. We had lockers there. And it didn't pose a security issue there. So I'm trying to figure out how the department is understanding how a locker fixed into the wall can be a possible security issue when the kids have bunks, metal toilets, and things of that nature that they can utilize in the same way that a fixed locker.
Well, again, going back to like, even though cage is home-like, and so not having something that looks as institutionalized is as well, something that is more aesthetic is something that we're looking at. So I think a lot of times when you're looking at a locker, that is more, to me, like harsh in facility, instead of like something where you have like different, excuse me, like different, you know, bins or compartments, something that is just more aesthetically pleasing than just a locker.
Got it. Last question, and I have to revisit this every time. Camp for the boys. Has there been any discussion to allow these secure track youth that are going to be spending 7, 8 years possibly of incarceration? Has there been any discussion of opening up camp? We're using, we have one girl from our county there, and it just does not strike me well that that has not been considered. And you know, we have the money, like these grants that my colleague mentioned, how that monies can be used to divide camp in half. Again, we have a maximum of 30 boys, 30 or 37 youth in there. It would really change the environment. It would change it from a lockdown environment to a more dorm-like environment. And it would also mirror what DJJ was, where I also spent a considerable amount of time there as well.
You're an expert.
Unfortunately, but yeah, camp resembles my experience in DJJ, and it just, I can't, has there been a conversation of utilizing it?
No, I will say there definitely has. I think what we're waiting to see is with some of our neighboring counties, I mean, it's public knowledge, like for Santa Clara and some of our other counties where they're looking to utilize their camps.
Right.
It's more of a legal thing right now. So I think because this is all new, I think in the next year, like, or less, or a few years, I should say, we'll start seeing what's gonna happen with that, because it is secure track. It is a secure population, and with that, I mean, just the legalities of it, it's just not there yet. And so a lot of our counterparts are facing issues because those places aren't secure, and they're going through now spending the money to make it secure. So, yeah.
Is that a barbed wire fence around camp? Because that's what DJJ has, just a barbed wire fence around. It's CYAs.
Well, I think for us, it would be more than that, because even though camp is secure, you know, it would be more than just a fence.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you and the work that you do. And I'm sorry for always giving you a hard time. It's just, you're the vehicle to be able to connect with the probation department. So thank you so much for your patience.
Any other? One more question.
Yeah.
So the multi-sensory room, is there a date for launching it?
So not yet. So they're working on the hallway. So we want to, I mean, we might have it prior to the hallway being finished. So I don't know if you've had a chance to do a tour. I know some of you guys have come, and so you kind of walk into the unit, and it's the hallway, and then you enter onto the unit before you get into the room. So I think we're trying to tie everything together in there.
Don't go for perfect, just go for good enough.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I am
Done
taking
is
that
better
seriously
than perfect.
because there were pictures of it in the, I told you I was doing lots of research. There were pictures of it 2 years ago in
Yes.
the probation report.
Yeah.
So for 2 years, this hasn't been used, and if it's useful, then use it. And
Yeah.
when I was in there, I thought, okay, this is pretty chill.
Yeah.
Even if it's not done, I'm reaping the benefit.
Yeah, no, the room is pretty much done. I think this was like one of my, actually my babies before I even got into this role. So
Mhm.
COVID.
Yeah.
You know, that's all I can say is COVID. And then other changes with our counterparts who we're working with, you know, they had some changes in staffing. So that kind of put a delay,
With the
but
sheriff's activities league?
yes,
Yes.
yeah. And so, yeah,
So it'll be
Very soon.
staffed, the room is gonna be staffed?
no, with the sheriff's activity lead who we're partnered with, because they were sending art therapists and people in to work with our youth to get the room together.
That's
And-
all done now.
Well, the room is, yes, and now they're working on the hallway.
Okay, so could the room be used without the hallway being done?
It will.
But we don't have an art.
We don't have a
therapist
date.
anymore, right? Like the Sheriff's Activity League, she left like a year and a half ago, so
So they have somebody else, other people coming in, working with the kids right now. So I think they started, what, 2, 3 weeks ago?
and those are art therapists.
I have a,
Okay.
I had just a few questions about the art programs, because, you know, we've been talking with the Office of Arts and Culture about getting a grant. And we have had Arts Unity Movement as well as Art of Yoga. And at the JJCC meeting, the chief talked about maybe a new program with an art teacher who is formerly incarcerated.
Yes.
And then you also mentioned a mural program. So I'm just a little confused about what are the arts program? What is the plan for arts programming in the hall? Because it sounds like several things. And I'm wondering, are the old ones still happening, or when do the new ones come?
So the old one is still happening.
Yeah.
The mural is underway right now, and then
The mural is in the hallway that we were just talking
Yes,
about? Okay,
yes. And then looking at possibly other areas.
yeah,
And then the gentleman who the chief was referring to, that's something that is in the works.
okay,
Yeah.
that's great. And he would be doing, that gentleman would be doing art classes or a mural, or? do
No,
we know?
more like an art class
Art
with the
class.
youth, yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm just confused about the room. I thought the room was a de-escalation, like take a book and sit in a comfortable chair, just chill out, not an art room.
No.
I'm asking different questions.
Yeah, no, I know that, but it seems to be tied in with.
Well, because it was a mural first, so
Right, but that's
getting
done.
the room together, yeah, so now they're working on the hallway.
Right, but the room that kids are supposed to go into
It's complete,
is
yeah,
done. So
but we haven't had an opening yet, and I don't
are the
have,
kids using it?
not yet, no.
So why?
Well, we just haven't yet.
But why couldn't you just let kids go in there and use it? I just don't understand.
We could, I mean, I think because they're doing extended periods working on the hallway.
But the
doing that
hallway
together.
has nothing to do with the room.
But it's kind of, it's not connected, but I mean, I think you would have to kind of see the layup of the unit, and so.
I've been on the unit.
Right, so because they're doing work there and they're using the whole outside area, so if someone's in the room, it's kind of disruptive to. And
Getting in and out of the room?
No. If you're in the room and you're kind of de-escalating, but you have movement and people in the main area,
They're doing work.
you're not getting the same benefit from the room or your privacy or whatever's what's going on, because the unit is still being utilized.
Are there windows in it?
Yes,
Yeah, so it's the windows that are facing out to the hallway, that's the issue.
no, they're utilizing, the hallway's right here, but you're utilizing the unit. So all the paint, all the supplies, everything is there on the unit.
Got it.
I got one more question. The music studio, is that gonna be in a cell or is that gonna be in the office space? Is it gonna like, are they gonna walk in and it's gonna be like, zzz, they get locked in there?
I had a related question, which is that the list that the chief presented at the JJCC meeting,
Yes,
there were a number of rooms on one unit that were gonna be improved, right?
Yes.
Including the music room that
Yes.
Paul's referring to. So where are all of those in relation to the de-escalation room that we're talking about? Are they in the same unit?
they're all in the same unit.
They're all in the
Yeah.
same unit. So if there's work being done on all those other rooms to get them ready, then the de-escalation room won't be used.
Right.
There's work going on.
Well, I think the biggest thing that's gonna take,
And sorry, I didn't mean to distract from
oh
Paul's
yeah,
question.
a little bit of.
Follow up right now.
No, at the
There's
same,
so much going on in
right,
that
right,
unit
right.
that is gonna be great when it's all done.
Well, I think
We're
the
just
biggest
curious
thing
about-
that's gonna take the most work and it's gonna be doing concurrently with the hallway is getting the music room up to par. And that's just so that, this, you know, where they can have the acoustics and, you know, all to be able to record in the room. We pretty much have like a padded room that we've never used. And so that's gonna, again, take the most work. Everything else is more so like a video game room, you know, just putting video games in, or like a yoga room. So that's putting mats. So no, it's not gonna take, you know, the same amount of time. It's gonna be done while we're doing the hallway.
Got it.
So that whole unit becomes kind of like a recreation center?
Yes.
So that was originally the mental health unit, correct?
Yeah.
That was our mental health unit, and so.
Yes.
And it was the padded rooms, it's the padded room that's gonna be used for the music studio.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get a visual, like, how is that gonna work in the unit, but yeah, thank you.
Uh-huh.
I'm excited, by the way, about today's future sound, the therapeutic beats.
Yes,
makers.
yes.
Who were referred by Commissioner Bustos. I don't know if you all remember the first meeting that Commissioner Bustos attended before he was a commissioner. He said, oh, there's a group I've been working with, they do beats.
Right.
They applied through the RFP process and they're now gonna be working in the hall. So,
Great. That's so great.
all right, that's a long update about the hall. Thank you, Ms. Clark.
Thank you, Ms. Clark.
Any other?
It's not on the agenda and we haven't really talked, but I want to talk about the MOU of being notified of serious incidents. Is that an okay thing to mention here?
I guess this is the right time to do that. We do have an agenda item at the end where we're gonna have just a meeting of the Juvenile Justice Commission, and we could ask
Our partners to be there?
our partners to stay for that and talk about whatever they
Okay, I
can.
just wanted to make sure it wasn't not touched because it, you know,
I think we're gonna talk about it at the end of the meeting. Yeah.
Okay.
And since we're in the Brown Act part of the commission meeting, we should stick to the agenda.
Great.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you, Ms. Clark. And I think that at the end of this agenda item is the appropriate time to ask if there's any public comment on what we've talked about so far on this agenda item. Okay, not hearing any public comment, then we'll move on to the next agenda item. Which is agenda item 4. And we're gonna be talking about new commission projects. So in the agenda packet, there were project plans that some of our commissioners submitted. And so I'm gonna share my screen to show those. All right, we're on agenda item 4. And the first new project that the commission is going to consider was proposed by Commissioner Wilson. And it's on education skills attainment in detention. So give me a second, Melissa. I'm just gonna, sorry everybody for making you a little dizzy here. Here is the project plan in the agenda packet. So commissioners have had a chance to look this over, but
Yeah.
Melissa, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So this has been something that I've been trying to do for about 4 years. It's inspired by Santa Clara County. They did a review of math specifically in 2019, and they coming out of that review, they actually changed to a different testing protocol, and they started testing the kids every 45 days instead of every 90 days. And the other test was more useful to teachers in terms of interpretation. So this is to see whether the students are at the very least making 0.25 years of progress every 90 days, very baseline. But then also because these kids are at such deficit, I believe that's without having seen test scores, and the opportunity for juvenile hall to be a foundation for education going forward, I'd be interested in knowing what the changes over time. So this is specifically to look at the change of math scores over time using youth who have taken 2 or more tests to try to get a sense of what learning they're experiencing that's going to translate to the outside world. And this will, I've talked to Shelley Johnson about it. We're going to be in new territory because Ed Code is a little bit different than Juvenile Justice Code. So there'll be a talk with Judith about where juvenile justice ends and Ed Code begins in order to get this data. So none of this data is public, and it is with every other school it's public, but because the numbers are so small, Hillcrest never publicly held to the same accountability standards. So that's one of the things is, we're oversight, we should know, and there's no way for anyone to know whether the kids are learning unless we do this. And then publish an executive non-revealing summary to the public. So that's it. It can be a one-woman show, or if another commissioner would like to join me in my, hey, let's do a show.
Amanda Nori.
Okay, great.
I'll join you as well.
Oh, okay, great. I think the conversation will be interesting, and I think looking at the data will be really interesting.
You scared me with the April one.
Forget April 1. I was
So I would entertain.
So I motion that
Move.
my project, I move.
So just to be clear, when we're talking about these project plans, what we're talking about specifically is to form an ad hoc committee of the commission that's going to look into the topic and report back to the commission. So the motion should be to form an ad hoc committee to pursue understanding educational skills attainment in the hall at Hillcrest. You and Melissa has made that motion. Does anyone want a second?
I'll second.
Great.
Text to that again. Or I can just pick it up.
I'll follow up with you afterwards. So now, any other questions or discussion for Melissa about this project from commissioners?
I think it's good to note that ED data has the data on Hillcrest School. So we have all of that data in terms of enrollment and attendance and all of those good things.
It's incomplete for many of the same reasons. So.
Yeah, that was going to be, I actually had a related question, which was just to clarify.
Yeah.
The data may not be publicly available because of the small number of students, and so they don't publish it. But as far as you're aware, the data is being collected. There is data.
Well, so I don't know.
That's still to be determined.
Well, if Shelley's on the phone, she can collaborate with this, but the measures of academic progress is an in-house data tool.
Yeah.
Then there's also the CalPERS, I want to say, that's the wrong name probably.
Oh, it's down, the link is down.
I have it down there.
Yep.
CASP.
CASP.
The CASP and LPAC tests are not available online for Hillcrest. Measures of academic progress is and in-house. I don't know if Shelley Johnson could provide the CASP and LPAC test results. But what I mean-
Hi there. Sorry. Hi, Melissa.
Yeah, hey,
So
Shelley.
in short, hello. Good evening, everybody. So and I didn't want to interrupt. So in short, you're absolutely right. Due to the low amount of students, it is difficult to come up with that summary for where it's publicly displayed on a dashboard or whatnot. So that makes sense. However, what we previously discussed, if someone has ed rights or release of information for individual students, when we do ed rights meetings, etc., or if we do anonymous compare in terms of how to package and review that information to satisfy the inquiry of students actually making progress in reading and mathematics. And we are able to download individualized SBAC and CAST test results through the TOMS website. But again, with ed rights releases or release of information, and or we do an anonymous review of each student in order to capture progress is not an issue.
Yes. So our first step is Judith. So we're going to meet with Judith, and then Judith's going to talk to the County Office of Education. That's step one.
Okay, but the generally.
That sounds like a great plan.
Yeah.
Right, and so figuring out what data is there, what you can work with is kind of part of the project, but the end goal is try to assess what kind of educational progress is being made. Yeah, fantastic. Okay. So if there's no other discussion about the project, then the commission should vote to approve the committee so we can move forward with it. I think we can do this on a voice vote. All commissioners in favor of approving this project, say aye.
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 Any opposed? No abstentions? Okay, great. Thank you, Melissa, for taking the initiative on this.
Sure.
The next project is one that that I wrote up and that Melissa raised her hand at the time that we published the agenda, and I believe Commissioner Rasmussen also, who has spent a lot of time doing inspections of the YSC, wanted to be part of. And essentially, the goal here is to focus on, specifically in the hall, on the food, and I call it lodging, but basically it means sleeping quarters. So it's been the top complaint from kids in the hall for the last couple of years as part of our inspection. And so I wanted to form a project or a committee to really just to dig in to understand, can we get it changed? Like, what can we do to improve the situation? Is it a budget issue? Is it a contract issue? What is it, right? And come up with some recommendations as well. Specifically, youth at Camp Kemp are sleeping at Juvenile Hall. And when I did the inspection of Camp Kemp this past year, one of the things I heard from the staff there was just that there would be I think that they had said 4 extra staff that would need to be hired in order to enable youth to sleep at Camp Kemp. So maybe that's a budget issue, but we have probation here, and maybe they can answer some of the questions, but we'll hold it for the project. And that's the goal of the committee, is just to focus in on those 2 things that have been top complaints for us for a couple of years in inspections, and try to fix them. And so I guess I will make the motion to form this project committee to dig into these 2 issues.
I'll second the motion.
Any other questions or discussion about it from commissioners or comments? Great. Let's take this to a vote then to officially approve this project. All commissioners in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Great.
And you'll put my name on the project.
I will
yes.
definitely
Thank
put
you.
your name on the project, Joanna, absolutely. Great, all right, so Commissioner Wilson and Rasmussen and I will tackle that one. Hey, Melissa, I think you're up again.
A busy weekend. Every youth has a rehabilitative plan that enters the hall, I believe, right? And they all are supposed to have transition plans. And this is sort of a way to be educated about what the rehabilitative plan and the transition plan looks like, because I've never seen one. Basically, we want to have a smorgasbord, a small sampling of flight. I'm not a drinker. A small flight.
Where did that come from?
Of youth. And to just do a review of, why are they there? What are the needs that have been identified? What's the rehabilitation plan that the youth has, participated in creating? What's the transition plan? What does that process look like? It would be super cool to go to an MDT meeting if possible, but not required. And I guess I'm interested in knowing when MDTs are held and how I think the biggest multidisciplinary team meeting. I think the biggest challenge would be, is scheduling. I imagine by the time you get to the MDT meeting, the child might be leaving fairly soon for the transitioning planning.
No, we meet, it depends on, the only time that we're soon as somebody hasn't been there only a few days. We meet weekly.
Okay.
As far as you guys being involved, that's it would be more confidentiality, so it's not anything that we could just, it's bigger than us.
Well, I'm bringing county council in.
Yeah, so
I think, as I've also said, sir, this is also an opportunity to clarify issues around confidentiality, because obviously it is really going way in there in a way that we haven't before, but I'm very interested in finding out where those boundaries are. So Judith.
Yeah, because everyone's at the table. We're talking about not only the hall, but you have the HRS there, so there's mental health things, talking about medical.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, I can imagine the medical is like a no-go for sure. So that's the excitement that Alan and Wesley and I will have that's step one, is having our county council talk to probation county council with what are the rules of the game, and then we'll just follow those rules. Yeah.
So to clarify, is the goal of this project is to kind of understand the process?
Learn, yeah.
As opposed to, it says here, a future extension would be to follow the progress of youth back in the community. So with the first project that you proposed and that we approved, it was to kind of measure progress of in school, right? The goal of this is not to measure progress or success of transitioning back to the community, but just to understand, like, what is the transition process.
We know nothing about the transition process. So
Right.
This is learn about the transition process. We have no basis to have any conversation right now because we've never seen a plan.
Got it.
So I'm not trying to fix anything. I'm just trying to see.
Recommendations be made after?
I would imagine that would be a natural byproduct of that if we get to a point of wisdom such that recommendations would mean something. But we're going to try to understand.
Seek first to understand.
Yeah, we're going to try to understand we're just good, and we're going to use our man on the street eyes. Women on the street, gender. On the street. Person on the street.
Okay. We should make a motion to create this project.
I move that we create this or endorse this as a formal project for this year.
A second.
Great. Any other questions for Melissa or Wesley, who's on the as a co-lead about
And Alan
And Alan, I think Alan's not on. I didn't mention him just because he's not on. About this before we move to a vote? All right, committees being formed left and right. Fantastic. All in favor of forming this committee to understand the reentry and transition process in juvenile hall?
Aye.
Aye.
Say aye. Aye, thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, great. We have another project. The fourth project plan that we have to talk about was put forward by Commissioner Nori?
No, by a volunteer.
By David Pollack. Hi, David.
Hi.
Sure, yeah, but.
David, did you know you're being put on the spot, or you're expecting one of the commissioners to talk about?
Yeah,
What's up?
so shall I?
Yes, please.
Share
Yes.
some thoughts?
Maybe you could just briefly describe the goals of the project.
It's to get an understanding of the current state of preventative measures, restorative practices applied to school attendance and discipline in San Mateo schools. There's been peer point, there's great work by PCRC. There's talk about moving funding away from SROs to other applications and programs at school districts, but just to collect what the current state is and then share out best practices to all the districts in the county.
Great. Questions about the project? No? Commissioner Wilson, oh, sorry, Commissioner Wilson's not on here. Commissioner Nori and Commissioner Swope, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Just that we may have trouble getting the information that we want. This fits in with what I was trying to do 2 years ago, and the County Office of Ed was saying that we needed to leave the principals and the staff in the districts alone because they were just so overwhelmed with all the demands from the state. I'm hoping maybe that has changed now, that they've gotten a little more settled down, but we'll see.
Thank you for that point, Commissioner Swoop. That is a very valid point because we have been having the difficulty since the pandemic getting information. And so we've got to find a way to get that information.
So just so I understand, this sounds a little bit like the project for diversion programs, in the sense that this is another project where you're seeking to understand, right? Like you want to know what are the restorative practices that are in the schools, to be able to document that, to write a report on that. And maybe you'll have recommendations after like seeking to understand, but that's the main goal, right? Like it's sort of a survey of what exists, and then maybe you learn something from that so that you can make a recommendation. Is that a fair description of what you're trying to accomplish?
Correct. And I'd also add to Commissioner Swoop's comment and the lack of cooperation in the past from principals is to approach it as a benchmarking study. And like in industry, you do a benchmarking study, you participate in a benchmarking study,
right,
so that you can get something out of it. So if there is anyone doing anything remotely interesting throughout the district, or throughout the county, it will be shared back with you. So, and if you want to toot your own horn that you are doing something exciting and innovative, then you can use that, the report as a vehicle for that as well. So there's a little bit of incentive tied into the project plan.
A number of districts and schools were doing restorative practices. They were implementing positive behavioral interventions and supports and social emotional learning. I was told that a lot of those kind of went by the way because of COVID and being online. So it'd be interesting to know if they have reinstituted those as they have school back in person. And I have plenty of information on PBIS and SEL and restorative practices in school. So we could get background on what we should find if they are implementing it.
Okay, great. Susan, do you want to make the motion?
Okay, I moved.
You went on mute again.
I move that that the commission approve the project plan for preventative and restorative school attendance and disciplinary approaches as a project for the commission.
I second.
All right, great. Any other discussion about it? Any other questions for the team? All right, let's form another committee. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David. Commissioner Rasmussen.
Thank you. So my project proposal is to secure ongoing Spanish translation services for our monthly meetings and materials. So this is a very short project. It doesn't involve a lot of manpower, and it's kind of in the works already. I'm working with Connie Juarez Driscoll from the county. She's working on seeing if we can start by getting Spanish translation via Zoom, using our translation features on Zoom here. But I want to go even further because 99% of our youth in the facility, we found out last year through our inspection reports and data, are youth of color. And 74% of these children are have Spanish-speaking parents. And so if we really want to include the community in which we serve, we have to be able to communicate. And so I'd like to see our inspection reports, our annual reports, any report we issue, our data, even our website in Spanish. And so that's what this project is going to be about.
Great.
Yes.
Are we being presented with cost issues from the county at this point in time?
No, she was going to look in, they have their own Office of Translation Services. So she was going to look to see what was available there.
Okay.
And so depending upon what their initial responses, I'm sure getting translation for one night a month is going to be much easier than a commitment to translate all of our materials on an ongoing basis. But I'm going to ask for the moon and see what we can get. Right? Because we do all of this work for this community and yet they don't really know about it. Right? So it's very, very important.
When we did the parent handbook, Melissa, we did get it translated into Spanish. Do you remember how we did that? Or
Yeah, I can look that up because we did have to pay somebody to do that. I've forgotten exactly how much it was.
we paid or the county helped pay for?
It came out of the $10,000 that the Board of Supervisors gave us to produce the book.
Got it. Okay.
So that's the project. I don't anticipate it's going to be very labor intensive. And if anyone wants to join me, you're welcome to join me. It'll be a small commission and I'm thinking it's something that we should have by June 1st.
Okay, I'll make the motion to form this project committee to get these much needed translation services for our materials and our meetings. Second, thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Any other discussion about it? Okay, all commissioners in favor, say aye.
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 Susan?
Aye.
I saw you were on mute, so I knew you wanted to say aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, great. We'll move forward with that. Thank you, Commissioner Rasmussen. And I think that's the end of the projects that we have project plans for. One thing that I put on the agenda, and sorry, I'm gonna stop the screen share for now. One other thing that I had put on the agenda after those projects was to talk about forming what I called district committees. So I'm not going to make the motion that we do it, that we form them right now, but this was an idea that that Mamadi, Commissioner Ohila, had last year at our offsite, which she essentially was saying we should have some commissioners assigned to certain areas of the county who should then be active in getting to know the community and the organizations in the community in those specific areas. You know, we used to have a commissioner a couple of years ago who lived on the coast side, and he would talk about the importance of having some representation on the coast side. So basically the idea, and I'll just in this meeting, I'll just float the idea, and maybe we can vote on it and discuss it further at our next meeting, would be that commissioners form small committees that are dedicated to specific areas of the county, and then now you have a place to focus, and you can do outreach to the community and outreach to, you know, community-based organizations that are working in that area. I, for example, live close to San Mateo. I would love to spend more time in San Mateo and getting to know the organizations there. So that's the idea. I thought it was a great idea from Mamadi in our offsite last year, and something that we should consider doing.
I think that's a great idea. I agree with it.
I think it should be a permanent standing committee as well, not just an ad hoc committee.
Right. Yeah.
I have a question. Would that create a barrier for commissioners like myself that does work across the county?
Oh, so yeah, I had thought of that, and no, certainly not, right? Like if you're already active in certain areas, then I don't think any committee needs to be territorial about it.
Commission won't go.
Yeah, because we've established relationships in San Mateo, San Bruno, Redwood City. I mean, we've got well-established relationships.
Absolutely. And if anything, commissioners who might want to start being more active in a specific area can consult with you, right? About the relationship.
Assistance with outreach.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think that this.
Yeah, I think seeing this as a vehicle for more of that community outreach.
So maybe we can expand our outreach. Maybe it doesn't have to be a separate project. Maybe we can incorporate into the project that already exists.
Yeah, we could do it that way.
Yeah.
It just struck me as a good idea because our county is so big and diverse, and it's a way for commissioners to focus a bit. And with that focus, then there might be more initiative to actually like get out and meet people in the community.
I agree. It's very rewarding work.
Yeah.
A lot of Spanish speaking as well. So you might need a translator.
Yes. Yes. Well, I mean, we should get out there and then encounter these, you know, obstacles and figure out how to overcome them. So, that was, I put that on the agenda because it's not a project per se, but it is, I think, a good idea of something that commissioners could be active with. So maybe we can formalize that a bit more in our next meeting.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on that? The only other thing that that was not on the agenda but might fit in this agenda, in this part of the agenda, is what the Juvenile Justice Commission said in our statement that we put out at the end of last week. Excuse me, that we have formed, the Juvenile Justice Commission has formed a committee to look at policies, procedures, and practices in our detention facilities to try to make sure that that no youth is ever at risk or danger of the kind of sexual abuse that we heard about in the allegations that were filed in court. So that is another project that the Juvenile Justice Commission is working on, and we have formed that committee. There was a separate meeting of the Juvenile Justice Commission last week, and that committee was formed at the time. So we don't need to take a vote on that, but I wanted to acknowledge that that is another project that the Juvenile Justice Commission is going to focus on this year. Did you want to add anything more?
I'm just, maybe the members of that committee are, so that would be myself, Monroe, Commissioner Wilson, Commissioner Bustos, Commissioner Bocanegra.
Right. And I think we're actually having our first meeting of this committee tomorrow morning to try to figure out the scope and how exactly we'll proceed. So more to come on that. Okay. Let's go back to our agenda. We're getting close to the end of the published agenda. We're on to, well, actually, sorry, before I move on to section 5 of our agenda, I would just ask if there's any other public comment on section 4 and the projects that we just talked about. If there are any members of the public that want to.
There was a public comment in the chat.
Oh, was there?
And but I think that was related to what we were gonna, an announcement that I was going to make.
Okay.
Later about the poetry, Monroe.
Can we see, I just want to make sure that.
It was on number
Yeah, we do
F.
that seems relevant.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I don't see any members of the public in the room or online that wanted to comment on that part of our agenda. So we'll move on to section 5 of our agenda. And I'm just going to share screen one more time so people can see what we're moving on to. We were going to talk about some previous activity of the commission and provide a few updates. So the first one here was something that I added at the end of our last meeting in January. Commissioner Wilson brought up the question of the scope of responsibility of the Juvenile Justice Commission and whether or not the statute, as it's written, includes oversight not just of the juvenile justice system, but also the dependency system. And so that is a question that we've posed with County Council. And I just wanted to update, because we had said last time that we would table it until February. I just wanted to update that is still under discussion. That there are some parts of the statute that seem to indicate that. There's other parts that are a little more gray. I believe that our council wanted to also have a conversation with the judges. So long and short is that it's just still under discussion, and we'll have more of an update in the future. Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioners Rasmussen and Bocanegra, 5B, I think you all visited the Mental Health Commission in the last month, and you wanted to update us on what happened there.
Do you want?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so on February 1st, Paul and I were invited to give a presentation to the Behavioral Health Commission on our mental health related recommendations of both our inspections and our 9-point plan. And so we gave a brief presentation. If commissioners are interested in looking at the presentation, it's in the Google Drive under the tab presentations.
Okay.
And so basically we just outlined what it has been that we've been asking for, and they have agreed to join our efforts. So we've got BHRS, their team, their commission is also working to get all the recommendations for like the therapeutic mental health space, intensive mental health services, everything that was included in like our 9-point plan and inspections. And so they were very, very receptive, and they're looking to collaborate with us, not only on this, but on other things going forward. So we just wanted to report out. We ran out of time last time to tell you all about it. So we just wanted to make you aware that that happened, and we've got some new partners in the game.
That's great. Any questions from commissioners about that? And sorry, I didn't ask if anyone had any questions about my update as well. Okay, the next item that was previous business that we've talked about that we were hoping to get an update on is our advocacy with Samtrans for restoring the bus line to Juvenile Hall. Do you have any updates?
Well, I sent around an update to all the commissioners after the last meeting. I don't know if everyone had a chance to take a look at that. And basically, just to summarize, we had sent a letter to the board of Samtrans. This is about the bus service to Youth Services Center, which was eliminated as of, it was August that they eliminated it. And we sent a letter to the board. We attended the board meeting in December and made public comment. We did get a response from Samtrans. We met with Jessica Epstein, who's the manager of government and community affairs, who was apologized for not consulting us as one of the stakeholders who should have properly been consulted before the decision was made. Basically, the data that they have gathered before, during, and after COVID was that it underperformed compared to other routes and did not serve residential areas designated as equity priority areas. And even pre-COVID, less than one rider took Route 260 to the YSC each weekday on average. Just before they terminated the route, the ridership was less than one rider every other weekday. That route also serviced Gateway, and there were at least 5 students, I think, that Shelley Johnson mentioned, that 5 students were taking that route to get to school. So when we discussed this with Jessica, she noted that 90% of Samtrans riders are low income. They're trying to manage their resources within their current envelope of the workforce. They do have resource constraints. They have a critical need to hire operators and mechanics. And we explored some other options, including micro transit, which is not an option for this route because it only works for curb to curb service in specific geographic zones. And this is broader than that. She suggested some alternatives to consider, including a taxi voucher system and petitioning the county for shuttles, because there are some community-based shuttles that are funded by cities through the Transport Authority, and perhaps San Mateo County would provide shuttles. This issue was also brought to the San Mateo County Office of Education board meeting in December, but the board decided to take no action. So we talked about next possible steps, which was to speak to, well, first of all, Jessica Epstein said she would get back to us, that she would go back with the conversation that we had, but it would take some time and she would get back to us. We have not heard back from them yet. But we talked about possible steps of speaking to the Samtrans board members individually, which includes Supervisor Miller and Canova, along with a former or a current Hillsborough Councilwoman and former Mayor Mary Chung, who's now on the Samtrans District Board. Supervisors Corso and Mueller are also on the San Mateo County Transportation Authority Board.
So sorry, just to clarify, you said Supervisor Canepa and Mueller are on the board, or is it Corso and Mueller?
No, Corso and Mueller are on the San Mateo County Transportation Authority Board.
Oh.
Samtrans is a different board.
Okay.
There's a further follow-up with, yeah, no, you're shaking your head. I looked at that, but I mean, they're.
Anyway, follow up with
relevant.
board members, yes.
You know, they consult each other, so we could follow up with the Board of Supervisors. But one of the points that is clearly underpinning our request is clear evidence supporting the need. So my recommendation to our commission is, how do we do that? Like how right. So how do we find that they've documented, they've done their survey and they don't have evidence of need, but we have anecdotal evidence of need. Is there some way to do a survey at YSC to consult with probation? Is there report? Is there some way that we could find the evidence of need? Because without that, it's going to be a struggle to, I mean, their point is, we know that there are people in need of these resources, and we're trying to do our best to allocate the resources to people who are 90% low income. So
the problem.
It sounds like part of the issue is they also have workforce and staffing issues,
yes, they do.
right? Like drivers and mechanics, right? So there's only so many routes that they can support if they're having their own
And
workforce.
in Reimagine, Samtrans was really trying to allocate the resources that they have in the best possible way. So
The problem seems as though that the data is not consistent, right? So if we have 5 students at Gateway, unless they're cutting school, you know, they only show up once every other week, like the data doesn't match. So the school district data doesn't match Samtrans. The service was cut in the summer. It's like, when were they actually timing folks? There was only a couple times a day where it actually went, you know, actually all the way up the hill. So there's so many factors that make it really hard to gauge just what their data represents, because it is not representative in what we hear or what the students at Gateway. And right now, I believe the school district's paying Lyft or Uber to get these kids to school.
they have a car service.
Yeah, so I mean,
Who's paying
the school, the county office of
county.
ed. So, I mean, there is, you know, money being put out for this, and so there is a need. So I also wanted to mention that in that meeting that we had with Samtrans, she wanted us to give a shout out for vocations, if any of our kids want to be a bus driver or a mechanic, because so many people can't afford to live in the area, they just can't fill those. So she was like, if any of these kids are interested, please let them know that we're hiring.
And then the other thing, I think, I'm not sure when they actually ran the test, when they were looking for the data on this, but during COVID, nobody wanted to get on a bus.
Right.
And so it is kind of unfair that during a pandemic, you would try to look for this data on how many people are using the bus.
Yeah, no, they definitely, she specifically dealt with that and said they did, and they measured it pre-COVID, during COVID, and after COVID. So,
Pre-COVID, right.
and she said even pre-COVID, less than one rider took Route 260 to the YSC each weekday on average. And just before it was terminated, so post-COVID, ridership was less than one rider every other weekday.
So how are those kids getting to school?
Well, the school issue was dealt with separately. They get them to school through the.
Is Samtrans providing the schools? Because we met with the superintendent where a youth was transitioning back into his school district. He had no ride, and they provided bus passes for them. I believe that should be Samtrans' responsibility to provide the funding for that transportation. It shouldn't be coming out of the school budget if these kids need to reach the school, and it should be, the county should be providing that vehicle to ensure that these kids reach the school or the YSC, and to make a predetermination that there won't be a rise, because COVID numbers have been down at the YSC. They've been trying to find alternatives of incarceration during the whole COVID period. So that data within the COVID period, I think is kind of like void, because it wouldn't make sense that you would run this data when they're not incarcerating the youth as they used to. And then you're gonna run this test to find the data on how many kids are using it. Well, right now, we don't know post-COVID if these numbers are gonna go up and there's gonna be a need for it. And so if there's this need for it, who's paying for it?
So let me stop us just to say, in the interest of time, here, I hear you, Commissioner Bocanegra, but the point of this section was just to get some updates on kind of where we are, and solving it we can do outside of this meeting, and come back, you know, next month, and hopefully we've made some progress. So
I will also just send a little note to Jessica and see where they're at.
Right.
So we've given them some time.
Our
to
own response.
See if there's been any movement there.
Okay, the next update we wanted to get was about PurePoint, which has launched, and
Luke is on the upper left.
Luke.
Or was. Hey, Luke.
There he is. Welcome, Luke.
Good evening, everybody.
Luke, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is my first time in this space, so wonderful to be here. My name is Luke Namien. I'm the PeerPoint Program Manager. And yes, as was stated, PeerPoint is launched. We've started a partnership. We have a MOU with Menlo Atherton High School. So we started doing referrals through them, I believe, towards the middle of January. And we also added a new aspect that wasn't part of the original model of PeerPoint with the PeerPoint community circles, which is opened up the amount of youth that we're able to serve, also in a preventative way. The community circles, we hold them weekly at the high school during the lunch period. And these are kind of like an introductory way into restorative justice practices and circle practices, where youth who aren't necessarily facing immediate suspension or expulsion, but have been identified by the school administration as youth who need some extra support and could use that sense of community. So we've had about 25 youth who have participated in these community circles. We actually just had our fourth one today. Today's was a little bit different. We did a practice walkthrough of a restorative justice circle because we have had our first youth who was facing suspension and was diverted through PeerPoint, and will be going through the entire PeerPoint process of getting restorative plan, participating in restorative justice circles, and also the community circles as well. Part of our understanding with the high school is that Fly staff, should there be a referral, we're able to show up within 2 hours of the incident. And that's, really helped kind of establish a bit of trust. I like to say we show up like the Power Rangers. So we want to get there and make sure that this really is an alternative. And it's something that both administration, staff, families, and students can feel like we'll be there for them in that moment, to be able to provide the alternative. We also, still maintain having bi-weekly meetings with the youth leadership team, YLT. This way we're able, to give them consistent updates and receive, consistent and relative feedback from the youth leadership team about what we're doing, that whether that be how the community circles are running, what's going on with youth who have been referred, what kind of questions we'll be doing, and also just the entire structure of the program and making sure, these young folks that created the program, I like to say my bosses, right, are still able to be involved in everything that's going on and are kept up to date. We also, we're at a point, as originally intended with PeerPoint, we are at a point now where we're trying to expand into the police departments as well. So currently we're in talks, very preliminary talks with 2 different police departments to start, having PeerPoint be a diversion program within their respective departments. So, discussions are being held and the entire process will look a little different from what it looks like in the schools, because there's that pool that we already have of young folks that can form a community circle within a school for referred youth to participate in. So we're looking into alternatives, for youth who are referred through police departments to also be able to have that sense of community, since it would be something happening outside of their school. And that,
What's the youth leadership team look like these days? Is it the original team, or do you have MA students who have joined the youth leadership team? Is that?
So it is still the original team. The hope, part of the hope with the community circles is that youth at MA who have those lived experiences that a lot of the referred youth are gonna have had, will be able to get trained up in restorative justice, in circle practices, and they'll be able to participate in restorative justice circles. And then once they've shown that this is something that, they really feel dedicated to, and they want to be that beacon of support, system of support for other youth, then offering them, the opportunity to become a part of the youth leadership team. So that's something that we've spoken to all of the youth who participate in the community circles from the beginning, that, this is kind of a stepping stone into getting to that point of, being a leader in their community.
Are you doing stipends for the youth who are doing the community circles, or reserving that for once they join the youth leadership team?
Yes, so right now we're doing, basically youth are doing 4 circles as a form of kind of helping us build out the program. So they do 4 circles. And once they've completed 4 circles, they do kind of a feedback survey with us, both with a written out form and in person with us, fly staff one-on-one. And that's basically, so we can get feedback on what they thought of the process, if they think there are certain things that we should change. So they get paid for those 4 circles, and then they have the opportunity to get paid for participating in restorative justice circles as a peer advocate. And they also have the opportunity to be compensated as a lead peer advocate. So someone who works directly with the referred youth before their restorative plan is created, during the creation of that plan, and also afterwards, as they try and fulfill those goals.
Thank you. We felt so lucky when we met Luke and knew that he and Crystal are the leadership, the on the ground leadership team, and just we're very lucky hires. So thank you, Luke.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We're happy to be here. Glad to get the program started. I think it's something that the youth have really found value in, especially with the addition of the community circle. So, definitely shout out to the youth leadership team and to Crystal, for coming up with that idea and, being open to being flexible and making sure we can make this program the very best possible version of itself it can be.
Well done. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Luke. Any other questions for Luke?
Just Wesley and Amaya, you are both still on the youth leadership team. Awesome.
And Luke, I just want to make sure I heard it right. First of all, the community circle is a fantastic idea, but you said there's been one situation where a youth might have otherwise been suspended, but instead is going through the Peer Point process. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. All right, thank you. The next update that we had was about our recruiting efforts to get more commissioners from our vice chair of membership.
So I was so caught up in Luke's presentation that I forgot that I was doing this. So we have been talking to various people. We have had 6 expressions of interest, and I think about 15 expressions of interest from volunteer match so far. So in most cases, the way we respond to that is I send an email and reach out and offer to set up a further call to provide more information. And I have to say, it's kind of a low return rate on that.
For volunteer match?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Get
Okay.
the interest, and then they get the email, and then maybe
No follow-up.
very little follow-up.
Okay.
Not 0 follow-up. But maybe 30% is.
30% is fantastic.
Well, maybe it's not 30%. 20%. Okay, so it's low. And we have had several commissioners who have attended 2 meetings already.
Several prospects.
Prospective commissioners who will have, as of this meeting, attended 2 meetings, and they are welcome after this point to submit an application. And the next stage after an application will be to have an interview with our membership subcommittee, which I will be delighted to arrange. We've also had a couple of referrals from our partner, Fly, and I will be meeting with one of them Thursday. So that is very exciting. And so
Great.
Good stuff on the go.
The pipeline is.
Pipeline is
The pipeline to the juvenile justice.
right. And I mean, there's a couple of other percolating along, but
Any comments or questions for our vice chair of membership?
Yes, I had a quick question. So who's currently on the subcommittee and am I able to join?
of course you can join. You'd be welcome to join. Yes, I will put you on the list. So currently it's Johanna, Monroe, myself, Melissa, and now Wesley.
Great.
We welcome all participation.
All right, Commissioners Rasmussen, Bocanegra, and is this Vignori or?
No, it's Amaya, and Amaya, sorry, I sprung this on the agenda, but you were there and you participated, so I wanted to include you. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
So back on, I'm looking at my calendar right now, it was Thursday, February 16th. We had the absolute privilege, Commissioner Bocanegra and myself and Commissioner Nori actually participated in the event to attend the Poetry Out Loud. It's something that's put on by the Arts Commission to help sponsor it, and Supervisor Noelia Corzo was involved with that, and her representative left a message in the chat that we can get to after this. But it was fantastic. What you guys put together was phenomenal. I was so inspired. I was like, Mrs. Bustos, or Miss Bustos rocked it. She just hit it out of the park. They were dressed. They were doing their, so we had 5 participants from.
Sorry, can you just back up and say what it is?
Sorry. So we had 5 participants from the Juvenile Hall participate in a poetry out loud. So they recited 2 poems each, and it was a competition.
Of their own poetry?
It could be their own or others, right? There was works from other people as well. And so they read these poems, they acted it out. Do you want to say, since you participated, like what you did to prepare? And
I think it was just meeting with like a coach who like prepped you through the thing. And I think it went well, really. One of the youth actually won 3rd place. Which
Yes.
is fantastic.
so they were dressed wonderfully. They were dressed real nice. The community, nobody knew where they were from. They were just,
Where did they take place?
students. It was on Thursday, February 16th, and it was on Zoom.
Oh, it was on Zoom.
And it was on Zoom. So when it was a webinar. And I was just so inspired by that. I don't know whose idea it was, but it was a fantastic idea. And our visit coincided with that week. So when we went in, we brought all 5 participants. We brought them a picture of a Robert Frost poem, and it's about choices and which road you take in life, so they can put it up in their room. And then we got each one of them a poetry book, but based upon their own level of reading and what they chose. So they each got we brought them an individual poetry book and the Robert Frost poem to put up in their cells. And so I just wanted to report out on that. I hope we're going to continue to do that because it was moving. And even when we got there on Sunday, they were still talking about it. And these are kids, I didn't know who the 5 were going to be. And I know all of them basically. And so when I saw who participated, I was really surprised. I was like, wow, that's really stepping outside of your comfort zone and doing something really spectacular. And so I just wanted to share that with all of you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. It's also really inspiring just to see how excited the youth were and how nervous they were, and as they were preparing to recite their poem. And so it was a special experience to see the kids.
We should make sure we read Jackie Rigoni's public comment on this.
Do you want to say?
Oh.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
Why don't you?
Do you want me to read it? I have it.
Yeah, take it.
I celebrate the Hillcrest youth who participated in the Poetry Out Loud competition. As Poet Laureate Emerita of Belmont, I had the honor of being one of the judges of the competition. I was so uplifted and inspired by their presentations, the work they put into preparing, and the artfulness with which they performed their 2 chosen poems. I especially want to express my thanks to the coaches who worked with them to share poetry with our community and hope the program continues. Plus, awesome job with your poems, Co-Vice Chair Nori. You should perform one of your poems for the commission tonight. Amazing.
You did do so well. You did.
I'm
Good
so
job.
glad she shared that with us. She wanted to make that comment directly, but had to attend another meeting, so.
And so this group brought coaches into Hillcrest to work with.
I think they've worked virtual from.
Yeah. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
In the school department.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's really great to hear.
All right, let's keep moving along because we're getting close to 7:15 when we normally adjourn. And we did want to adjourn the joint meeting and convene just the Juvenile Justice Commission to talk about a couple things. So there were just a couple of announcements. Maybe we could do those quickly and then adjourn the joint meeting. Commissioners Bokenegger and Rasmussen, you're going to be making a presentation at Mills High School.
We will. So this junior and seniors who take the social justice class there have invited us to come and speak, and we'll be going on St. Patty's Day to give a presentation to them.
And for those of us who don't know exactly when St. Patty's Day is, it's
Oh, sorry, it's March 17th. Sorry.
Cultural something there. Okay, all right. Commissioners Swope and Wilson are also going to be making a presentation in the community.
Swope and Wilson will be headlining at the League of Women Voters, Central and Norco, talking about the Juvenile Justice Commission and legislation and how they too can get involved.
And that's a webinar, right?
There is
on Zoom, yeah.
There is Zoom participation. What date is that?
It's on March 21st at 12 to 1:30 is the meeting. And it's League of Women Voters, North and Central San Mateo County.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so there's nothing else left on the agenda for the joint meeting. So if there are no objections from commissioners, we'll adjourn that meeting now. We do want to move on to having a discussion with just the Juvenile Justice Commission, which we're going to do in person only. So we're going to disconnect the Zoom.
In the recording.
And commissioners only, yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you for everyone for
Thank you.
participating.
Thank you for
online.
all our prospective commissioners for attending too.
Oh, you know what?